Hello, powerhouses. So I have had 3 people within maybe the last couple of weeks either cry in my office that they felt completely isolated and alone, or just saying in general how lonely they felt lately. And I will admit, within the last few weeks, I also had myself a good cry that I felt really lonely. And so I wanted to talk about that for a minute because I know for sure that I'm not alone here. They are not alone. We lonely feeling people are not alone. And it's one of those things that I have found time and time again. So many women come to me, we're sitting in my office or we're having a conversation and they talk about how lonely they feel, but simultaneously don't take the opportunity to feel not lonely, or they don't talk about it or share it or ask people to do things because we're embarrassed or we feel ashamed that that is the case, or what if somebody judges me or thinks I'm a big loser, I don't know, whatever goes on in your head. And so I thought to unpack that a little bit and also talk about the seasonality sometimes of relationships. And I think that it's so normal to outgrow relationships as well. If you are of a growth mindset and you're someone who is constantly evolving, or you've just changed a lot over the last decade because of who you are as a human and what it is that you've found you value, or how you want to spend your time, or even in being an entrepreneur, sometimes that can be extremely isolating. And one of the recent conversations I had, with a client, and she was saying, man, I feel like I have no friends, or the friends that I have are just starting to make me feel more self-conscious or feel poorly about myself than they are making me feel good about myself. She said they are my quote unquote friends, but the more that I hang out with them, I feel as though they are putting me down for how I want to grow my business, or they think, or they're afraid I'm going to fail. And I'm sure they are coming at her with good intentions because they don't want to see her fail, but they are most definitely not pumping her up and helping her out there. And they've got this scarcity mindset. And so if you're surrounding yourself with people who aren't on the same frequency as you, or challenging you to be a better version of yourself, or encouraging you to do the very thing that you want to do, that is time to reevaluate who you're hanging out with. And I'd argue that it's better to be alone than with people who are making you feel that way or question your dreams or what it is that you're chasing, especially if it's coming from people who haven't done what you're trying to do. If it's coming from a mentor or someone who has specific experience in that space, you might want to tune in. But for the most part, and I think for most of us, we get a lot of unsolicited advice from friends and family who mean well, but mostly their advice sucks because they haven't done what we're trying to do or been where we're going. And so that is the stuff that I would say, take with a grain of salt, but then you may also want to just hit pause on those relationships in general and think about, okay, who do I want to align with, and what rooms should I start hanging out in, or maybe I should start putting myself out there a little bit. And that can be scary too. And I did an episode, it was one of my very first podcast episodes, when I talked about your circle and making sure that the people you're surrounding yourself with are the ones who do make you feel good and encourage you. And it is healthy for them to challenge you as well. Your people should be making you and encouraging you to be a better version of yourself overall. But they should most definitely not be talking to you in terms of making you feel extremely self-conscious or terrified that you're going to fail all the time because they're scared you're going to fail. You know, it is okay to be afraid to or be anxious to take risks, but there's so much excitement in that. You know, that is the beautiful part of growing a business. There's always risks that we're taking on, but if we have conviction and a plan behind the growth, game on. And so, and when you are a business owner too, I think naturally it just can get isolating, especially if your friends or the people that you hang out with don't own a business. So they sometimes don't understand the work that it takes, especially early on. If you're just in the phase of like hustle and it doesn't feel like you have a whole lot of balance, but what you're doing is aligned, a lot of people don't get it, or also the problems that you're experiencing, they may not understand. And so we keep that inside because we know that in talking to the current people that we're aligned with or associated with, they're not going to understand. And so it is so important to find groups of other business owners or individuals who you can talk to as well, and just not feel so alone. You know, another woman that was in my office yesterday, she just broke down and she's like, I'm so alone. I'm doing everything by myself. I'm exhausted. I'm doing the marketing. I'm running the business. I'm cleaning the toilets, you know, and she obviously has a staffing problem, but the reality is she was just at this point of pure exhaustion and isolation, and she's a single mom. She's got 3 kiddos, and, you know, she doesn't necessarily, I don't want to say, it's not that she doesn't get along with the other moms, but the other moms just can't relate. So there's not a whole lot of common ground. And so there is just so much comfort in being able to sit in a room with someone who just gets it. But to get to a point of sitting in that room with someone who gets it can also take some discomfort on our end to put ourselves in that space. And so, you know, if you are feeling lonely or isolated, or like you just need some new people for this season of your life, because again, it is healthy to change sometimes friendships or relationships based on your growth, you need to seek that out. And it is a little bit like dating, you know, you kind of have to find your people. And I'll say, like, at this age and being a woman, and dare I say middle-aged? I'm totally not middle-aged. I'm still 30. You know, but in your 30s, 40s, 50s, it's hard. It's hard to find sincere, genuine, authentic friends who give a shit, who truly care, who will show up when times are tough, and also be willing to have that reciprocity in a good friendship. And so it definitely takes some time, and you have to be willing to put forth that effort if you don't want to feel lonely, and finding your person or people or community. And so for me, EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, has been significant. I have found so many really good relationships there. WPO, the Women's Presidents Organization. And then there's some local things as well. You know, in addition to the couple of friends that I have, you know, and even for myself too, and how I've been feeling lonely the last few months, is that my circle, or my 2 closest friends, who they do get it in terms of, you know, the beat and owning a business. What's different is that they're in a different season of life. They've got 2 little kids, and they're consumed with their schedules right now and doing everything that they need to do with their careers, their kiddos, and they just don't have as much flexibility as I do, or free time at night, for example, to go for a walk or on the weekend. And so lately I've been kind of like, oh, boo-hoo, they don't have time for me, you know? And so it's forcing me now to get to this next level of discomfort to say, man, like, if I am feeling lonely, or like I want to do things, but my friends aren't in a season right now to do those things with me, I'm going to put my ass out there and start talking to other women, because I'm also an introvert. So like, it's very uncomfortable for me to ask newer people, or relationships rather, to do things because I'm just a weirdo. I don't know. So it's up to me to change that story. And I kind of called myself out on my own bullshit the other day, when it's like I have all of these connections and these friends, maybe not deep relationships, but they are friends, and they're probably not deep relationships because it's my fault. I haven't really worked on them, even though they are potentially women that I could really align with. And so I've been doing that and connecting with some people that I haven't really spent a lot of time with in the past, and spending some time on those relationships. And I've gone for a couple of walks and hung out, and it was great. We had a great time, great conversation, and it was nice to spend time with someone else, and they're also business owners who did get it. And I kind of, in my rudder routine rather, forgot that there are other people, and they too were kind of feeling like me, and they were glad I reached out. Was it extra effort? Was it maybe a piece of vulnerability in there? Absolutely, but I am very aware that I need to do that more, because I can't complain about one thing that I am capable of changing if I'm not willing to do the action. And so I am saying that because if you are in a position right now where you do feel a little bit lonely or isolated, man, I feel your pain. But also to follow that up with, what are you doing about it? What are you doing about it? Are you putting yourself out there? Or are you in like the dark hole of just wallowing in all of it, depending on what's going on right now in your personal life or your business, or maybe a little bit of both, because typically if one's screwed up, the other one's not great either, because they're so related. And so I really want you guys to think about that. And so if you're feeling lonely, don't feel lonely. Reach out to us, reach out to other women in your community, or I'm happy to see what I can do to connect you to other groups. And we run a ton of events here. Some of them are local, most of them are hybrid, and we tend to attract like-minded women. So it's a great space to just show up and meet people and put yourself out there. And a lot of our events are very intimate, so they're not intimidating. You're not going to be like in a corner hanging out by yourself, or of course you won't be in that situation if you're on Zoom. We have monthly networking calls that Sarah runs, our COO. And so I'd encourage you to reach out to us about that information, hop on those calls, get involved, and let's do more together and raise each other up and make sure that you're not alone. Because there are people who will get you, who will want to connect with you. And I will say this, I say it many times, we are all more alike than we are different. So let's continue to be a strong community powerhouses. Continue to be courageous.